November 11th, 1918. The First World War finally comes to an end. For Britain and her empire, the cost is staggering. Nearly 1 million men dead, unrest throughout her colonies, and her economy shattered. But it was worth it for peace, wasn't it? But there was no peace. The Russian Civil War rages, with British troops being sent to Murmansk to prop up the ailing provisional white government. And within 6 months, the tensions on the Khyber Pass lead into the Third Afghan War, with yet more British soldiers deployed overseas. Over the next decade, Britain, as with many of the victorious nations of the First World War, turns increasingly isolationist and with a strong policy of appeasement. War on an industrial scale is to be avoided at all costs. For a time, this policy seems to work. Then, in October 1929, the stock market crashes. Fringe political movements all over Europe gain traction as desperate people look for a way out of the hardship of the Great Depression. In January 1933, Adolf Hitler comes to power in Germany, promising the restoration of German honor. In August 1934, he merges the office of President and Chancellor to make himself Führer, the joint leader of Germany, becoming undisputed dictator of the German people. The following March, he publicly announces the rearmament of the German state and the reformation of the Reichswehr, the German armed forces following the First World War, into the Wehrmacht, a new aggressive fighting force. Britain and France, determined not to see a repeat of the appalling conditions of the First World War, attempt to appease the Austrian dictator, even as he reoccupies the Rhineland in March 1936 and takes control of his homeland in the Anschluss 2 years later. The breaking point seems to come with the Munich crisis in the September of 1938, as Hitler demands the Sudetenland, a region of ethnically German settled lands in Czechoslovakia, be ceded to his Third Reich. Yet still, Britain and France relent. Hitler yet again reneges on his promise of peace in our time, and seizes the remainder of former Czechoslovakia by the end of March 1939, forming the Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia from the Czech portions, and the puppet state of Slovakia from the Slovak ones. That September, the final straw is broken, however, with the German invasion of Poland. Appeasement having failed, Britain and France finally declare war on Germany on September 3rd, 1939. The Second World War in Europe has begun. This, however, was not the beginning of hostilities. The two powers are still reluctant to engage the Wehrmacht on the continent, preferring retaliatory air raids, even then dropping mostly leaflets, and naval engagements far from European shores. Germany's annexation of Poland that October, and her aggressive movements towards Scandinavia, changes the Allied approach. The neutral nation of Sweden is a key supplier of iron ore for the Third Reich, with that supply being sent mostly through similarly neutral Norway. Both sides seek to secure Norway to deny it to the other, but it is Germany who strikes first, occupying Denmark swiftly in less than 6 hours on the 9th of April 1940, continuing to Norway later that day. The Allied response is at first naval in nature, aimed at halting the invasion before it can occur, but despite early Allied successes, eventually ground forces are required to combat the German advance. British and French troops are deployed to Norway, landing at Namsos and Arendalsnes near Trondheim on the 12th of April. It is here, in the frozen extremes of Arctic Norway, that the phony war is to come to an end, and the Allies finally confront the Wehrmacht, face to face.